Are you happy with the new manager, Dino Toppmöller, the son of Klaus Toppmöller? We already talked about him briefly here, but how excited are you about his excitement being at the most exciting team in the Bundesliga?
Well, exciting times, exciting times. No, it is certainly. I think it's a very interesting choice they made. He never been a manager at a big club. He was assistant manager to Julian Nagelsmann for 3 years, I think, 2 at Leipzig, if I'm not mistaken, and 1 at Bayern Munich. He's got a great reputation within the game. I remember being at Leipzig and having breakfast with another assistant coach of Julian Nagelsmann, with Moritz Volz, who actually played in London for some years. And Moritz started talking about Dino Toppmöller without me asking, because he was so well, not obsessed, but so kind of his working methods. Dino Toppmöller seems a guy who's seeing things on the pitch which not everybody sees, and he's very clear in the communication. He's got a very good way to talk with players. He's still young, 42, so he still can relate very well to players, I think. So I think it's an exciting choice for Eintracht Frankfurt.
How disappointed are you that Oliver Glasner left? I mean, he won the Europa League with their team, qualified for the Champions League, qualified for the German Cup final, and there was a lot of controversy about him last season. Are you disappointed that he's leaving, or would you say you're rather relieved?
I think it was time that he left after the last half season. Everybody could see, and it was painful to see that things were not working out anymore. And it was painful to see because he's such a charming man and he's such a great manager. He really worked well for 1.5 years. But after the World Cup, really the Frankfurt game broke down because key players like Daichi Kamada and Mario Götze came back from the World Cup with in bad form, or even psychologically down. And the team never got going again after the winter break. I think it happens to quite a few teams, and it's never mentioned that it was the first time you had a World Cup which really ripped the season into part. And you could see that Glasner had no answer to his team not performing. He was basically tinkering around, I think, and he particularly had no communication strategy. One day he was slaughtering the team in public when they played Union Berlin away. He said, well, what should I do as a manager if I don't have the quality in the team? Which was quite shocking. He was naming players in public, but it wasn't coming out of a strategy that he was trying to kick his players' asses. It was just that he was offended. He was angry and he let his emotions flow. And the other day, then he was trying to defend his player again. So you could see that his relationship with the players, but also with the sporting director, were really stressed. And it came to a point where it was really in a cul-de-sac. It wasn't going any further. And you could see the clear thing that it was the right decision that he left was the day they announced that Oliver Glasner was to leave. After this, there was a kind of relief, and the team at least didn't lose the last 3 games in the Bundesliga. They got 7 points out of 3. Before that, they hadn't won in 10 games. So, as I said, the relationship was basically destroyed, which is quite sad because Glasner is a fantastic guy. Everybody, really everybody in Frankfurt loved him. You met him in town. He was sitting in a cafe quite often, and you could approach him, and he would talk to everybody. And that was the great thing about him. But I think in the end, that was really what cost him the job as well, because he had just one face. He was talking all the time like Oliver Glasner. As I said, he had no strategy. He is a guy from a small village in Austria, and he was walking around in Frankfurt, but also in the club, just talking the way he is. And when he was angry, he was letting his emotions flow. And I think as a manager, you can't do that. He should have solved earlier in February what strategy, communication strategy, tactical strategy is necessary now to get the team back on track. In the end, it was the most beautiful season because Frankfurt played some wonderful football in the autumn, and it was the most terrible season because they let it all fall apart in spring. They should have been qualified for the Champions League this season with the football they played in autumn. So in total, I think it's a lost chance.